Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. May Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai's peace be bestowed unto you, hopefully elect. I'm your brother Yahweh Call from Great Millstone, Orlando. And, prophecy has everyone, mainly to those of us on our watch, because these people, they don't know what's going on. I'm just seeing that Trump has officially got that ceasefire. They were talking about annihilating Iran tonight and whatnot. But of course, it's just a play on it's a big psyop. It's a play on of the people's emotions. But nevertheless, again, prophecy does have everyone on their seat, at the edge of their seat. But regardless of that, these words will come to pass. Prophecy will play out. The scriptures will play out. All right. So, not to ramble, I'm just back here. Got this video here. Lena Petrova done several videos based off of her, her videos or whatnot. Of course, to play this video and filter through the scriptures, of course, because again, these people, they don't know what's going on, But again, man, the prophecy is going to play out regardless. All right. I would imagine right now, people being in that spirit of peace and safety, But again, without rambling, I'm gonna go ahead and get into this video because there's a lot going on, man. Again, the prophecy has everyone on the edge of their seat. So without further ado, of course, copyright disclaimer, fair use. I'm not making any type of monetary gain. This is just for informational purposes. So without further ado.
After hitting a low in 2025, the dollar has surged. Analysts call this a war-driven rebound. Its rise is actually linked to safe haven demand and higher oil prices, but the long-term outlook may not be as strong as it seems. In today's video, I will answer one of the key questions, which is, will the US dollar's recent rebound last, or is this just a temporary lift from the ongoing war in Iran? Since the US and Israel's attack on Iran, the US dollar has gained strength. Investors are seeking safety, and they're worried about inflation as oil prices continue to rise. The conflict has raised concerns over oil supply, pushing prices higher and higher. Because oil is traded in dollars, this has driven up demand for the US dollar. For example, West Texas Intermediate crude, which was $67 per barrel before the war, jumped. Brent crude also rose from $73 per barrel to over $112 per barrel. At the same time, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates steady while warning that the conflict could actually create, quote, new inflation. Rising oil prices have created inflation fears, which of course can prevent the Federal Reserve from cutting interest rates, increasing the dollar's appeal. These factors pushed the US dollar index up more than 2% in March of 2026. While the dollar is back in the spotlight, analysts caution that this momentum may only be temporary. It's not going to last. Even before the war, the dollar faced many challenges, and if you have been a regular viewer here on my channel, you know exactly what those challenges are because I frequently discuss them in my videos and over on my Substack and Patreon. Even before the war, the dollar was already approximately 10% overvalued, and this is according to many experts here in the United States and also foreign experts. Rising debt, policy uncertainty, and trade tensions were weighing on its value. Once the war ends, markets will refocus on fundamentals, of course, and this includes possibly easing inflation if global energy flows are stabilized, although that is highly doubtful given the extent of the destruction to energy infrastructure in the Middle East. Additionally, we need to factor in potential Fed rate cuts and global investors moving back to foreign stocks and bonds. All of these things could actually put downward pressure on the US dollar, and it would reverse the war-driven gain. So in very simple terms, there is a considerable outflow of capital into foreign equities right now, from the US economy and into foreign economies, that is. And so that, coupled with the US foreign policy that weaponizes the US dollar, all of those things push the value down. If the war in Iran ends within the next several weeks, which is highly, highly unlikely at this point, oil prices may stabilize, safe haven demand for the dollar would fade, and the dollar's strength could quickly decline. However, if the war continues longer and transforms into a war of attrition, as some military analysts suggest at this time, that picture changes. Persistently high oil prices would keep inflation elevated. In turn, this would limit the Fed's ability to cut rates. In fact, the Fed would be incentivized to increase rates to mitigate the risks of rising inflation. Energy importing economies like Europe and Japan would face slower growth and weaker currencies, while the dollar could remain stronger for longer.
So, just real quick, man, a lot being said. When you get into it, and I'm going to partially echo off of, and Slakia, the name slips me at the moment, but I actually shared the video on my page. Very edifying and informal. Going into the elder from GMS Boston, I believe that's the page name. And again, Slakia, the name slips me. But he did a very informative video. So I'm going to echo off the elder's video. Because Babylon's hegemony is waning. Babylon is more and more showing itself to be untrustworthy. That's why you just had being said that France has pretty much removed their gold from pretty much they took back their gold from Babylon. That's just one of many signs. Babylon being isolated again, showing itself to be untrustworthy, right? But dealing with this crisis due to the whole so-called Middle East conflict. And again, I'm going to echo off of the elder from GMS Boston. Because I just seen that there was some type of explosion, whether deliberate or accidental. It's still a developing story. Of course, you just got to wait for the details to come out. But this explosion over there at the Panama Canal, which is pretty much another trade route, a quick trade route, and I mentioned this before, how Trump, because although this man is on a war rampage, he's a madman, but make no mistake about it, Trump is not as dumb as people think that he is. He's actually he's thinking like a businessman, pretty much. Because as she's mentioning, or going to continue to mention, and she's going to continue to go on about how a lot of these, especially America's allies, how they depend on that Strait of Hormuz. Especially countries that don't import oil and things of that nature. Again, this thing with Trump, as I mentioned before, him taking over Venezuela, as we know by now, or should know, because for damn sure it wasn't no drugs, or nothing like that. But for those resources, and mainly that oil, right? Because pretty much, man, Trump is setting up himself to be And again, Lord willing, it's all coming together with the Panama Canal, which Trump could very well use that. And again, this is the echo off of the elder from GMS Boston. Because some may ask, well, why would he prolong this war, or this conflict? Because long story short, man, like I said, the fact that a lot of America's, mainly America's allies, depend on that Strait of Hormuz and whatnot, it would set Trump up and Babylon up to pretty much regain that dominance. All right. And pretty much, make them that world superpower again. So again, Trump is not as dumb as a lot of people would think. But I'm gonna play some more of this. And because, well, let me just play some more of this.
And so the future of the dollar depends heavily on the duration of the war and how energy markets respond to the war. Next, let's quickly chat about the US dollar versus gold. I know many of you are curious about this too. The US dollar has recently outperformed gold as a safe haven. So that is a very important key fact to keep in mind. Yes, the US dollar has recently outperformed gold as a safe haven. That's the truth. Gold prices have been very volatile, spiking one day and then falling the next day. Experts say that this is because higher US yields and a strong dollar attract capital away from non-yielding gold. Now, for now, the petrodollar system does continue to support global oil trade, which keeps the demand for the dollar quite stable. However, if you watched my previous video, you would know this. The petrodollar is collapsing. It is dying because the petro yuan is rising. The Iran war.
So again, Trump, from what it seems, and I'm just trying to explain this to the best of my abilities. I know many other brothers can expound more, but just speaking on what I know through the Spirit. Again, Trump is trying to prop himself up to be the world hegemony again. Because again, Babylon's hegemony is waning, is weak. Because there's been all type of talks about with that Strait of Hormuz, and how pretty much anyone that wants to use that strait, they would have to basically deal with the yuan, which again that takes away from the dollar, the petrodollar, right?
Has redefined oil trade in a number of many different ways, and one of them is the fact that the passage through the Strait of Hormuz will likely be settled in yuan. And that's thanks to President Trump. Of course, the dollar will remain a key global currency. It will remain a key global player, if you will, but it's not going to be the only currency that is used to settle oil trade, which is why I say the petrodollar is dying. Countries still need dollars to pay for energy, and the United States, of course, is the net oil exporter. And so that means that the United States is relatively protected from supply shocks. Still, let's be honest with ourselves. This will not last forever. Long-term risks like tariffs, debt, and a variety of geopolitical threats could eventually restore gold's appeal as a hedge against global financial risks. For now, the U.S. economy is benefiting from its position as a major energy exporter. Europe and Asia rely heavily on Middle Eastern oil that is often shipped through the Strait of Hormuz, and they also rely on U.S. natural gas. In 2025, for example, 50...
So, like I just said, a lot of these countries, especially America's allies, they rely on that Strait of Hormuz. So Trump is, from what it appears, setting himself up, setting Babylon up to where, pretty much everyone would have to rely on Babylon for these resources.
7% of the natural natural gas used in the EU came from the United States. This demand forces foreign buyers to actually purchase dollars to pay for energy, which of course supports the American currency. While Americans feel the effects of higher gas prices, the US dollar and energy exports strengthen America's position in global markets. Now, in summary, the US dollar's rebound is real, but it is largely tied to short-term war and oil markets dynamics. When the conflict ends, long-term challenges such as rising debt, the possibility of a protracted war in Iran, US foreign policy uncertainty, US economic policy uncertainty, and the overvaluation of the US dollar, all of those things can pull it back down, and likely they will pull it back down. For now, the dollar remains a safe haven, yes, but gold and other assets are poised to regain appeal.
So it's the same playbook that we've seen time in and time out over time. All right. You know, certain of these events, wars, you know, and after the fact, again, Babylon will be propped up as that the war hegemony. It's the same playbook that we've seen time in and time out.
Will the dollar keep its war-driven strength, or is this just a temporary spike before the next decline? And my answer to that is this is just a temporary spike before the next decline. So I know I just covered a lot of information probably. So to sum this up, the US dollar has strengthened, yes. It rose roughly 2% in March of 2026. The rise was indeed driven by its role as a safe haven asset amid rising geopolitical risks and surging oil prices following the US and Israel attack on Iran. The Iran war has boosted the dollar as a global demand for the currency increases for energy imports. It temporarily reversed a previous downward trend, but I would like to emphasize that this is a temporary reversal, and it will likely decline once the geo-economic forces are stabilized and there is more clarity with respect to how this war of aggression on Iran ends and what that means for global energy markets. Thank you so much for watching.
Jeremiah 51:8. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be that she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. And as I just used example, pretty much France taking pretty much, you know, taking back their gold from Babylon. It says, for her judgment reaches unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. So, and this is a part of Esau's pride, all right, which it says in Obadiah 1, his pride has deceived him. Because again, the same playbook, and you best believe we've been talking about it at camp, you know, these nations have studied the playbook, you know, they've watched the film tape. And this is why all this bluffing and, you know, shit Babylon talks, man. Again, you know, we're in a time where we Babylon has become the taunting proverb. You know, Babylon is getting called out for its bluff, right? You know, being that Babylon hasn't which that's why the scriptures refer to Babylon as the virgin daughter of Babylon, right? You know, there's never been war on American soil and things of that nature, but that's about to change. Because being that Babylon hasn't been touched like that, well, they follow the old blueprint. You know, they follow the old blueprint, and it's going to be to their detriment. It's going to be to their demise. Because these nations, what Babylon has weaponized, you know, dealing with these sanctions, because they weaponized the dollar, sanctions and tariffs and all these things over the years. But and meanwhile, these nations, they've sat in the background and learned to work around these sanctions and things of that nature. They've learned to because it's like if you see the booby trap, obviously you're going to go around the booby trap. You know, so these nations, they figured out how to work around, you know, the system of things. This is why BRICS, which the past few years it's become the BRICS Plus, pursuing Ezekiel 38. More and more of these nations, those Russian Edomites, man, they offer they're pretty much a better deal, for these other nations. This is why, again, Ezekiel 38, right? All these nations, they're going to lean more on the side of the Russian Edomites, because everyone is tired of Babylon. All right. Again, hegemony is weak. She's showing herself more and more to be untrustworthy. So what we're seeing and what we're going to continue to see is more of America's allies turn against America, according to the scriptures. Right. And, when these nations, because what comes to mind, just speaking as a man, is, as I just mentioned, from what it appears, and again, to echo off of the elder from GMS Boston, to give credit where it's due, of course, and just speaking as a man, if that is the case, and these nations, these nations, America's allies, come to that understanding, once they see that, Revelation 17, Revelation 17. So, of course, man, where we're sent back with our spiritual popcorn, and like I said, prophecy has everyone on the edge of their seat. But nevertheless, man, these things are going to play out. The scriptures are going to play out. And there's going to be something. It's going to be something. Because however this plays out, there's not going to be, that's why I just read this, Jeremiah, there's not going to be no bouncing back, right? There's not going to be no bouncing back. And then, for the next 50 years, Babylon is going to be, once again, this great mighty empire and all. Because when it's all said and done, according to prophecy, Revelation 13, there's going to be a new way of buying and selling. All right. I'm going to grab this. 2nd Esdras. We're not going to be living in no post-apocalyptic world like Esau portrays in his movies, right? Because Esau and what he's trying to accomplish is going to be very, very short-lived. Why? Because the days are going to be so evil that Yahweh Bashim Ashah is going to have to really speed the days up and deliver his elect. 2nd Esdras 9. Bear with me. 2nd Esdras 9 and 20. So I considered the world, and behold, there was peril because of the devices that will come into it. And the main device, all right, the main thing being that MOTB. Because once that is mandated, all hell is going to be breaking loose. Like Yahushua said, let me just grab it. Because by the time the Yahushua comes, this bitch is already going to be up in flames. Luke 12 and 49. I am come to send fire on the earth. And what will I if it be already kindled? So by the time Yahushua comes, this bitch is already going to be flipped upside down. Which the scriptures say that. Yahweh Bashim, he's coming to shake shit up. All right. Yahushua is coming to tear this bitch up. But by the time he comes, all hell's going to be already breaking loose. It's already going to be bad. That's why Yahushua is going to have to come. The Heavenly Father is going to have to send Yahushua within a swiftly manner. Because again, we're not going to be here, Lord willing, we're not going to be here another 50 years. Like I said, after the fact, and America has reestablished his hegemony, right? And so on and so forth. No, man. And again, being spiritual, we see Like it says in Revelation 7, the angels are holding back the winds of destruction. Right? Because, again, if you're spiritual, man, we see that Yahweh Shema Shah, he's moving everything into place. That pressure is building. But the pipes can only hold so much pressure. Eventually, this shit's going to, the pipes are going to burst. And we're just waiting on that MOTB. So this is the main thing. All right. Once the mandation of that MOTB, and that's the next step. So this is what we're on the lookout for. And this is what all this is going to lead to. Trump is talking about another, $1 trillion something for defense, for war spending, which is going to, because who do you think that's going to affect? Us, the consumers. So, Lord willing, there's no easing up, man. A more inflation, hyperinflation, and so on and so forth, man. It's about to get nasty out here. But Lord willing, this was edifying. All praises to Yahweh Shema Shah. Shalom to you, hopefully elect.